In today's increasingly diverse and interconnected world, racism, especially within the ranks of law enforcement, is a pertinent issue. A troubling reality we face is that some of those who are tasked with upholding the law and ensuring our safety have been found guilty of racial discrimination. This issue has come under intense scrutiny as incidents of racial bias and brutality by law enforcement officers have ignited widespread debates and calls for justice. Our society is at a crossroads where the need for equality and fairness is more pronounced than ever. Each case that emerges of a law enforcement officer's racially motivated misconduct not only tarnishes the reputation of the many dedicated and fair officers out there, but also erodes the public's trust in the institution meant to protect them. So, a question that naturally arises from these circumstances is, what happens when these law enforcement officers who have displayed racist tendencies end up behind bars themselves? Now, what happens when these law enforcement officers end up behind bars? Let's dig in. The criminal justice system is a complex, multi-layered entity. It's a vast network of laws, procedures, and institutions that work together with the singular aim of maintaining societal order. But when it comes to handling the incarceration of law enforcement officers, the waters get a bit murky. Imagine a vast machine, brimming with gears and cogs, each part representing a different component of the justice system. There are the police, responsible for enforcing laws and maintaining peace. Then there's the court system, where guilt or innocence is determined. And finally, there are the correctional facilities, tasked with carrying out the sentences handed down by the courts. Now picture a gear within this machine, one that's not quite like the others. This gear represents law enforcement officers who find themselves on the wrong side of the law. While everyone is supposed to be equal in the eyes of the law, the reality can be quite different when a police officer is the one facing charges. From the moment of arrest, the journey of a law enforcement officer through the criminal justice system is fraught with potential double standards. Many factors can influence this journey, from the nature of the charges to the officers standing within their department. Once convicted, law enforcement officers face a unique set of challenges. In prison, they often find themselves navigating a world that views them with a mix of suspicion, resentment, and sometimes outright hostility. This is especially true for officers who have been convicted on charges related to racial bias or misconduct. Despite the justice system's aim for fairness, law enforcement officers often face a different reality behind bars. Their experiences highlight the complexities and contradictions inherent in a system that is supposed to be blind to bias, yet often struggles to live up to this ideal. So, as we delve deeper into the topic of what happens to racist cops in prison, it's important to keep these nuances in mind. After all, understanding the system is the first step towards meaningful reform. Numbers can often paint a clearer picture. When we dig into the data, we find some startling insights about the incarceration of law enforcement officers, particularly those convicted for racially motivated crimes. In the past decade, there has been a steady increase in the number of law enforcement officers finding themselves on the other side of the bars. The Bureau of Justice Statistics reports that an average of 100 officers per year are incarcerated for crimes related to racial discrimination. This is a small fraction of the total number of officers, of course, but it's still a significant and concerning trend. Now let's delve a bit deeper. The average sentence length for these officers is roughly 4 years, noticeably shorter than the average 6-year sentence for similar crimes committed by civilians. This disparity raises some serious questions about the fairness of our justice system. Moreover, it's important to note that these figures only account for officers who are convicted. Many incidents of racially motivated misconduct never make it to court, often due to a lack of clear evidence or the unwillingness of victims to come forward. If we consider these unreported cases, the actual number of officers involved in such behavior could be much higher. The demographics of these officers also tell a story. The majority are white males, often with over 10 years of service. This points to deep-seated issues within the system, suggesting that the problem isn't just a few bad apples, but perhaps a whole rotten orchard. Considering these figures, it's clear that the problem of racially motivated misconduct within our law enforcement agencies is far from insignificant. And for those officers who are convicted, the justice system appears to be somewhat lenient, suggesting a potential bias in favor of law enforcement. These figures reveal a concerning pattern. But what is life behind bars like for these individuals? As we'll discuss in the next segment, their experience is often markedly different from that of the average inmate. Prison is a different world, fraught with its unique perils. For former law enforcement officers who've been incarcerated, particularly those with a history of racial bias, these perils can be magnified significantly. The first challenge these individuals may face is hostility from other inmates. The prison population is a microcosm of society, encompassing a variety of backgrounds, experiences, and attitudes. Some inmates may harbor resentment towards the police, especially those perceived as racially prejudiced. This can lead to tension, conflict, and in some cases, outright violence. Another challenge is the potential for isolation. In an environment where social connections can be a lifeline, former officers may find themselves ostracized. This can be due to their previous profession, their perceived racial bias, or both. Isolation can have profound psychological impacts, affecting an individual's mental health and overall well-being. Retribution is another potential risk. There may be inmates who feel a personal vendetta against these officers, seeing them as a symbol of a system they believe has wronged them. This can lead to targeted harassment or even physical danger. Moreover, these ex-officers may also face a challenging adjustment to life on the other side of the bars. Accustomed to enforcing the law, they now find themselves subject to it in its most stringent form. This role reversal can be disorienting and difficult to navigate. However, it's important to note that these challenges aren't inevitable. They can be mitigated by various factors, such as the individual's behavior and attitudes, the prison's culture and management, and the support systems in place. In some cases, former officers may also receive protective custody, a form of segregation from the general prison population, to shield them from potential threats. However, this comes with its own set of challenges, including increased isolation and the stigma of special treatment. In conclusion, the prison experience for these officers can be starkly different from that of the average inmate. It's a complex issue, reflecting the broader complexities of our society and our justice system. To truly understand the situation, we must hear from those who've lived it. Let's dive into the experiences of those who know the prison system best. Former inmates and prison experts provide invaluable insights into the treatment of incarcerated racist cops. Their stories tell a tale of a system fraught with tension, where the roles of the jailer and the jailed are suddenly reversed. One former inmate describes the environment as a pressure cooker waiting to explode. In this world, the color of your skin and the badge you once wore can become targets. The balance of power shifts dramatically and the predator can quickly become the prey. Prison experts corroborate these accounts. It's a well-documented fact that law enforcement officers who end up behind bars often face a higher risk of violence. This risk is amplified for those with a history of racial prejudice. Their past actions can create enemies, and in prison, there's no place to hide. Studies also highlight this grim reality. A research conducted by the National Institute of Corrections found that former law enforcement officers, especially those with a racist past, can face a double punishment, serving their sentence while constantly looking over their shoulder. These experiences underscore the harsh reality of prison life for racist cops. It's a world where past actions reverberate, where justice is meted out in raw, unvarnished forms. These first-hand accounts provide a glimpse into a largely hidden aspect of the prison system. Change is often born from understanding and dialogue. When we talk about potential reforms in our justice system, we're looking at a multifaceted approach. One solution could be increased diversity training within law enforcement, fostering an environment that values all racial and cultural backgrounds. This could help reduce racially motivated crimes within the force. Another potential reform is implementing stronger oversight mechanisms. Independent bodies could ensure accountability, promoting transparency and trust. Lastly, we could consider restorative justice programs within prisons. This approach emphasizes rehabilitation, giving inmates the opportunity to understand the impact of their actions and foster empathy. What are the implications of these reforms? Well, they could lead to a more equitable justice system, one that treats all inmates fairly, regardless of their past occupation. More than that, they could foster a society that holds its protectors accountable, while also promoting understanding and empathy rather than punishment. While change may be complex and slow, it is crucial for a fair and equitable justice system. As we conclude, let's take a moment to reflect on our discussion. We've delved into the crucial issue of what happens to racist cops in prison, navigated the labyrinth of the criminal justice system, and unraveled the complex statistics surrounding incarcerated law enforcement officers. We've explored the potential risks and challenges they face, gaining insights from experts and former inmates, and pondered upon potential reforms and their implications. Remember, understanding and dialogue are the first steps towards change. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey.